Alright, let's graph this system of inequalities. The first thing to do is to graph the equations, so I'm going to do them color-coded. So the red equation right here, notice it says greater than but not equal to, so it's going to be dotted. But let's go ahead and graph this line anyway. X plus y equals -3. And a lot of times people, when they see this, they immediately want to put it into slope-intercept form because they're more comfortable, but it's actually not the easiest way to do it, in my opinion. The easiest way to do it is just to find your intercepts. And your intercepts are, when you plug 0 in for x, what does y have to be? -3. And when you plug 0 in for y, what would x have to be? -3. So your 2 points are 0, -3, and -3, 0. That was pretty easy in my opinion. So 0, -3 is right here. Now technically these should be open circles because this says that it's greater than and not equal to. So I'm going to kind of make them somewhat open circles. And then -3, I'm sorry, this was -3, 0, and 0, -3 is right here. And now, whoops, I did that wrong. Sometimes my eyes get crossed when I'm looking at these. 1, 2, 3. That's 0, -3. Alright, now we're going to make a dotted line between them. I'm going to go ahead and make a solid line. So maybe I will make a dotted line. No, I'll make a solid line because I don't know how to make a dotted line on this. And it's going to go through both of these points like that, roughly. And now I'll make it into a dotted line. And now the last thing I have to do is figure out which direction to shade it. It's either going to be shaded on everything above that line and to the right, or everything below it and to the left. And the way to test it is to use a test point. So I'm going to use 0, 0, which is clearly on the one side of the graph. And I'm going to, in my head, I'm going to think, is 0 plus 0 greater than, or sorry, I'm actually plugging it into the inequality. Is 0 plus 0 greater than -3? Is 0 greater than -3? And the answer is yes, 0 is greater than -3. So I'm shading everything this way for that red graph. Alright, now let's do the green graph. Same thing. Let's do it the exact same way. Let's take my graph, my equation rather. So -x plus y is equal to -2. I'm first going to draw the graph, so let's find our points. Ready? If I plug in 0 for x, what does y have to be? -2. And if I plug in 0 for y, what does x have to be? This is tricky. It's got to be +2 because that's already got a negative in front of it. Okay? So 2, 0 is right here. Notice it's an open circle. And 0, -2 is right here. Now I'm going to draw a line between them and make it a dotted line. So my line is going to be something like, now these lines aren't exact, and that's why we're going to have to do more than just look at the graph and figure out if it's right. We're going to have to, well, you'll see what we have to do. So there's that line. Now let's see if 0, 0 works for that. If I plug in 0 and 0, and remember this says less than right here. See how it says less than? Is 0, -0, which is 0, plus 0 less than -2? No, 0 is greater than -2. So it's not shaded toward 0, 0, it's shaded away from 0, 0. So it's shaded this way. So there's my solution right there, and I'm going to go ahead and erase these lines so that I don't think that that's part of my solution, because it's not. So there's my solution set, but they're also going to want most likely to know what this point is right here. They're probably going to want to know what that point is. So to figure out what that point is, I solve this system of equations. And now let's do that. I'm going to do that over here in the work right here. Remember, solving a system of equations, you can do it a couple ways. You can either, notice I'm turning them both into equal signs because it's a system of equations. It's just that point I'm trying to find right there. The easiest way to do this, if they're already in standard form, is just to do linear combinations. add them straight down. So, and notice that I don't have to do anything to these. The x's cancel out already. I get 2y equals negative 5, which means y equals negative 5 halves, which equals negative 2.5 if I want to write it as a mixed number. And so if I plug in negative 2.5, I should be able to plug it into either one of these. Let's plug it into this top one, the red one here. X plus a negative 2.5 equals negative 3. Add 2.5 to both sides, and I get negative 1/2. And look, that makes sense because there's negative 1/2 and there's negative 2.5. That looks exactly like what it is. Negative 1/2, negative 2.5 is the intersection point right there. So if they wanted the intersection point, that's how you find the intersection point, by solving the system of equations. And there's your answer. All of the points, I'll go ahead and do it in purple there. All of the points that are in that region, not including the points on the dotted lines, because of these, both of them are inequalities, not the equal part is not part of those inequalities.